imagination simply contained in the mind? Or does it tap into an unseen world with messages waiting to be told? There is a place where legends cross over into our world, where strange visions and whispers beckon, and superstition takes hold. Step into the Black Cat's shadow.
Welcome back to the Black Cat's Shadow. Join us as we take a closer look at the cases of the strange and unexplained from all over the world, and how they inspire some of our favorite horror movies. My name is Andy, and I am one of your hosts, podcasting from Kansas City, Missouri.
And I'm Dakota, and I am coming out of Olathe, Kansas. Today we decided that we're going to take a look at a virtual road trip. We kind of threw around the idea, and we came up with the idea just kind of on a whim, thinking, hey, let's check out some of these like creepy areas along the United States that have kind of inspired some horror movies. I mean, it's a pretty interesting topic. I've seen a lot of things online, like blogs. Have you seen any of those blogs, Andy?
No, I haven't. Yeah,
they're pretty cool. One of the ones I looked at, it was a virtual road trip looking at the most haunted historic sites all over the United States. They started the opposite direction we are. They started like up in New York City and went around like went down the East Coast, down the southern border, up to the West Coast. It was kind of cool, but not as cool as ours is going to be, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I thought this was a good idea. I mean, this is something I would love to do in real life. Just go around the country and just see, talk to people that live in each state and just get them to tell us some of their urban legends that they grew up with. And but we can't do it in real life, so we're going to do it virtually. So this series will be 50 episodes long. We're going to stop in each state, including Hawaii and Alaska, and we're going to talk about some of the creepiest urban legends we found in each state. And we're going to talk about a movie that was inspired by one of them, probably. So we'll do like one movie review an episode still. And then we're going to try to also get some guest co-hosts on here. People that live in each of these states. We weren't able to get anyone on for California, but the next stop is Nevada. So hopefully we can find somebody, maybe Las Vegas, Reno area, something like that can hop on with us and tell us some of their creepiest stories that they grew up with. So that's kind of the idea. We want to involve some people that actually live in these states and have them join us on the podcast. It'll just make it more interesting to actually hear from these people that actually live in these states. And Dakota, you've got a list of some really creepy urban legends before we get into our main topic. So go ahead and I'll let you talk about some of those.
Yeah, I mean, the internet's teeming with different things. I mean, from just like ghost sightings, and then you got these creepy urban legends that just pop up, and I found 8 of the creepiest urban legends that probably will keep you up at night if you actually look into them. One of the ones that I really like, it kind of has something that we have here in Kansas. We have something in Kansas called Gravity Hill. There is a place in California, I don't know how to pronounce it, Whittier, I guess, but it pretty much does the exact same thing it does here in Kansas, where you park in this little area, and your car will go up the hill backwards. It's really creepy. Another one, the phrase that they like to say is called "death awaits for everyone at Turnbull Canyon." Supposedly, it's just a site of some really crazy paranormal activity. Cults will take people there, and they would just disappear. Some creatures that have been seen, mutilated children, hooded figures, some pretty creepy stuff there. And then the Santa Lucia Mountains, you're never alone. You're always being followed by these more than human beings. They look like humans, but they're giants, and that you can't really tell what they are. The Chumash Indians in that area actually believe that they're spirits that are coming to take you to the other side. This one's pretty cool. The San Antonio Creek Bridge. Have you ever heard of Charman, Andy?
Yeah, actually, I kind of ran across that during some of my research as well.
Yeah, Charman is supposedly a man that died in the fire of 1948. But that's not... I kind of debate that myself. I think it's just like a murder victim that was murdered around that bridge, because I don't see the San Antonio Creek Bridge being anywhere in the fire in 1948. I didn't really look at a map, but and this one's really cool. Fans of the GTA series will know this one. In GTA 5, there was a scene. If you go to Mount Chiliad at night, you'll see a ghost woman wearing a bloody wedding dress. They actually got this from this part of California, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't played any of the newer GTA games, but they sound like it would be pretty fun. But that's really cool that they added that Easter egg into the game.
Oh yeah, it was pretty cool. This one's kind of cool. This one kind of hits home for me. Skinwalkers are a big thing in our mythos, just throughout the entire United States, being a Native American myth and the Native American monster that just pops out of nowhere. In Joshua Tree National Park, there's been medicine men that have seen skinwalkers that walk through the desert, and they would take children from their camps. It's terrifying to believe that these skinwalkers probably do exist, but kind of what they got this from. I did a little research into the Indians of the area, and they believe that the skinwalkers, they would change their appearance into a coyote, and they would take a baby or children, some of the children from their camps, and take them away. Others would turn into one of their members of their tribe. So it's weird, really weird.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna comment on the Skinwalker thing. I mean, I've seen at least a couple of documentaries on that. Not necessarily in California, but just the Skinwalker topic in general is just, it's really creepy. Because it seems like there are genuine witnesses to it. Within the Native American community, so they genuinely believe in this phenomenon. It's really creepy to think about.
Yeah, it is. This one's kind of cool. The phrase goes, "Taking anything Bodie will bring its curse to your home." Bodie is a ghost town in California. It was an old gold mining town that, if you go to the town, you'll hear a child giggling and a Chinese maid scolding her, which is pretty interesting. But it keeps going down and down, and if you actually find anything interesting and you take it from the ghost town, the curse will come to you, and you'll suffer from the curse. I really didn't look too far into it, but it is kind of cool. And then you can summon the ghost of Stowe Lake. The ghost of Stowe Lake is actually a woman who drowned trying to save her child. If you actually go up to the lake's edge and you say the words, white lady, I have your baby," 3 times, eventually she'll appear to you, and she will ask you where her baby is. And if you say you have her baby, she'll haunt you for the rest of your life. Then it keeps going with that. If you say you don't have her baby and you summon her, she'll drag you to the lake and drown you. It's a pretty interesting story. I mean, I did a little bit more research into it, but it goes pretty deep. Something else about this lake, there's actually a statue at the lake, and if you stand by the statue pretty much from dusk till like where it's pitch black dark, you can see the statue's expression changing.
Oh yeah, that'd be freaky to see.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. And this is the most common one. It's probably the most popular story. It's called anyone who goes to the Hollywood sign is accompanied by death. Death supposedly stalks the Hollywood sign because of the multiple suicides that have happened there.
Okay. So just generally the area around the Hollywood sign is haunted?
Yeah, it actually, going back to our ley line discussion when we talked about just that topic that we mentioned a while back in one of our podcasts, I looked at a map. There's ley lines all over the Hollywood sign. It's a supernatural hotspot, supposedly.
Yeah, and that whole area that it's in, I'm trying to think of what, it's like a park where there was like the Los Angeles Zoo used to be there, but it's been abandoned pretty much. And there's like some caves there that, they use some of the caves in the original Batman TV series. They use the caves as the Bat Cave. So yeah, that whole area is really interesting. A lot of like cool things to go and explore, and and I'm sure there's probably a lot of urban legends like associated with that area too. Yeah, there definitely is. The last thing I want to mention is we've all seen American Horror Story. The first season, you remember what it was about? It's like a haunted house, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, it is a haunted house, and it's actually inspired by a real place. It's actually called the LA Murder House. It's a beautiful mansion, what we would consider a mansion in the early 60s. The actual address, if you ever want to know about it, is 2475 Glendower Place in the wealthy community of Los Feliz. It is in Los Angeles, obviously. The story goes that the doctor that lived in the house, Harold Perlson, at night went into his bedroom and killed his wife with a ball-peen hammer, and then attempted to kill his children. After he killed his wife, he went to kill his daughter, but missed her head and actually ended up hitting her square, probably like behind the head. Woke her up. She screamed, woke up the neighbors. Neighbors called the cops, but before they could get to him, he killed himself with I think he just overdosed on 30 pills and alcohol.
Wow, that seems pretty. I don't know. Like, I feel like there'd be like quicker ways to kill somebody.
It would be. I mean, if you hit somebody in the temple, obviously it's sudden death. It's like almost instant. I feel like since he was a doctor, I mean, he would have had much more easier ways of killing somebody if he wanted to kill somebody. The story goes that their family was under some really, really hard times financially due to a car crash that happened with his wife and one of his children. And then there was another instance where this doctor, he created this medical device, and this medical device was stolen by his partner. And when he tried to sue, he got the money back that he pretty much for the attorney's fees, but he never got any money out of it at all other than that. So it kind of drove him insane. But it seems weird that this guy would just kill his family with a ball-peen hammer and then say weird things like just whisper to him, lay still and keep quiet, or this is just a dream, go back to bed. It's just odd to me. So I think it might have had something more supernatural to do with it. But I did a little bit more research into it. The family moved into the house a while back after a rumor goes that the doctor's family, they were Jewish. So it goes on about probably 5 years later, family moves in there, and they're Christians and they celebrate Christmas. So they abandoned the house afterwards, and there's still a Christmas tree and wrapped presents that are wrapped up in the house.
So like one day, like before Christmas, they just take off and just leave all their stuff in the house? Yeah.
And it was on the anniversary of the murders. The murder-suicide, I guess.
Oh, wow. So they never said, like, why they left?
Well, the author of this article I'm reading, he went to track down the people that bought the house afterwards, or rented the house. They couldn't find them. They just up and disappeared. So it's really, really odd. The house has actually been abandoned for the last 50 years. It actually went up for sale and was sold for $2.4 million.
Wow.
Oh, it's creepy, and it's very odd, and it's a very great story to just look at, and it almost screams haunted to me, and I think that's what makes it creepy. And I think when they kind of took that and made it into American Horror Story for that first season, it went above and beyond what they could have done and made this house a lot more famous.
So no, I actually have not seen American Horror Story any of the seasons. They followed the original story pretty closely in season 1.
Not really. They kind of skewed it off a little bit. This family moves into this house, and they really don't know that it's haunted. Everyone else thinks it's haunted, but the neighbor woman was a little girl at the time when these murders happened in this house. But the story goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and it gets kind of confusing. But for those who have seen it, they understand that things are not always as they seem in that house. Where an old maid that looks really old to everyone else looks sexy and young to this man, because that's how she wants to appear to men, because that's how she was in life.
Oh, okay, sounds interesting.
Yeah, it gets pretty weird, and that's pretty much some of the weirdest things that happen in Los Angeles to me, and all of California, I guess.
Dakota, have you ever watched the TV series called V?
I don't think so.
Okay, so the original series, there was like a mini-series that came out in the 80s, the mid-80s, and it was pretty popular, and they had like a couple of made-for-TV movies too that came along with that. they had a new series came out like, I don't know, it's probably like 5 years ago or something like that. But basically what the premise is that you got these aliens that come, and they come to Earth, and they want to basically, you know, they say that they want to help humankind, and you know, that they look just like people, and so they say they want to help humankind become more peaceful, and you know, all these things, they want to help us out. And then you know, you come to find out that they're actually like this race of lizard people, that they just wear this human looking skin over their real lizard faces. And so there's, you know, parts of the show where their human skin gets ripped off and you see the, you know, the lizard face underneath. That kind of like got me thinking about that. And so I actually ran across another urban legend in LA, and it's about these lizard people that were supposedly living in tunnels under Los Angeles. And I mean, this goes, you know, when I say like lizard people, like these are like, they look like reptiles basically. You know, they have scaly skin, slit eyes, they walk on two legs. And there's a lot of theories about like where these beings came from. You know, there's some that's saying that they come from inside the earth, like, you know, it goes into hollow earth theories and things like that. But in some of them, like some of the theories say that they're extinct, that they were just like an ancient race that are gone now from these tunnels. But then there's also other theories that say that no, they're still around, and that, you know, they even have like kind of like a sinister motive for like controlling the human race. So I guess you know, some of the theories about why they live underground was that they retreated into the underground caverns during some kind of environmental disaster like a long time ago. And then they kind of continue to thrive and evolve and just continue to live underground. But you know, they're said to have ties to the military. You know, some conspiracy theorists say they have ties to the military, and you know, interacting with humans at different points. Because you know, there's been some sightings of these reptilian creatures. But yeah, kind of going back in history though, like some of the first people that actually talked about them were actually the Hopi Indians of northern Arizona, and they actually talk about their snake brothers, quote unquote, you know, and how they lived underground, and you know, they lived underground in Arizona, California, Mexico, and Central America. And one underground city is believed to be on the West Coast under LA. And so there was actually an engineer in 1934. His name was G. Warren Shufelt. He was a geophysicist, mining engineer. He actually found these tunnels under Los Angeles. Okay, so kind of really where it starts is G. Warren Shufelt. He built like a radio X-ray device, and it was used to detect minerals. But using this X-ray device, he was able to map out these tunnels below Los Angeles, and I guess he heard about the some of the legends from the Hopi Indians. He actually talked to a guy named Little Chief Greenleaf, and you know, so according to the Indian legend, the tunnels were built over 5,000 years ago, and so like these lizard people, they actually use chemicals to make these tunnels. So Chief Greenleaf also said that the lizard people, they were scientifically advanced compared to us. And, you know, they had actually discovered ways to predict earthquakes, and that they had passed on to the Native Americans. And so also the Native Americans said that the history of the earth was written, like these lizard people had written down the history of the earth on these gold tablets as well. So, and actually the LA Times reported on this engineer when he was digging down to get to these tunnels. There was like a front page article, January 29th, 1934. And so they said that Shufelt, you know, he dug down about 250 feet into the earth before the project was somehow canceled, and they just like filled the hole back in. But it's interesting that they would you know, report on this story, I guess, you know, because they also included the whole lizard people thing in the article. So he actually had made a map of all these tunnels, and I think what I'll do is I'll post a picture of the map on our Facebook and our Horror Mino Tunes. It's kind of interesting to see that. You know, and they're saying that the underground tunnels were kind of in the shape of a lizard. But they talk about like where these golden tablets were on this map. They were in this key room, so that's kind of interesting. So despite all of their mapping and plotting of the treasure-filled underground city, like Shufelt, he never actually found it. So shortly after that article appeared, the project, which had been originally authorized by the city council over a year earlier, suddenly just stopped, and Shufelt and all of his team, they just disappeared for some reason. It's kind of weird. But then everybody just kind of wrote off the whole thing as a hoax. They actually have found other tunnels underneath Los Angeles, but they're saying that they're just work of smugglers hiding illegal Chinese laborers in the 19th century. Well, I guess there was actually a psychic called Miss Edith Eldon Robinson of Pico Rivera, but she was like a highly respected a psychic, I guess, and she had a vision. So on the evening of December 22nd, 1933, 5 weeks before the story hit the pages of the Times, the clairvoyant Miss Robinson had envisioned that under Los Angeles lay a vast city and mammoth tunnels extending to the seashore. So that's kind of interesting too. That who knows, how much validity there is in that, but it's kind of interesting urban legend, just that's about this underground city, and that this race of lizard people actually built it. There's, like I said earlier, there's this whole conspiracy theory behind it too. There's this author named David Icke that he's wrote a series of books about the reptilians and they're controlling the human race, and that they actually have us all like under this like hypnotic state. They sent out this. They actually are using the moon as like a transmitter. I guess it's he says that the moon is a hollow space station, and they transmit the signal down to Earth and make us all see like a fake reality. So I guess it kind of goes in line with that movie called They Live, one of John Carpenter's great movies, where you put on the sunglasses and you see reality for what it really is. I think that kind of ties into it as well. And there's lots of YouTube videos, that they supposedly show proof of these lizard people, like that they have on these like human disguises, but they have these glitches, and you can see like their lizard appearances underneath. But I think from the videos that I've watched, they're kind of more, it looks more like pixelation than anything else. Some people think that they come from like underground. Some people think they come from that they're aliens, and then some people think they just come from like an alternate dimension. One theory is they evolved from dinosaurs, kind of like how humans evolved from apes. So that could be another theory, is that they were just like a natural evolution from the dinosaurs, and that they were like an offshoot of dinosaurs that survived some kind of catastrophe in the past that wiped out most of the dinosaurs. But then these intelligent reptilians, they actually went underground to survive, and that through time they've continued to evolve. But and there's so there's like there's a couple different types of reptilians that we've seen here. There's just the normal ones, and then there's like the ones that have wings, and they're called Draco-reptoids. So there's kind of like a caste system, it sounds like, within this theory or this legend. So that's kind of interesting, and I guess somehow the gray aliens kind of like, they kind of are involved in this in some way, as maybe like a crossbreed or something like that. But it is kind of like a big rabbit hole. I mean, the more you look into this, like, you can just go on and find all this different research that people have done on these reptilian people, and it's really interesting to read. I don't know how much stock I would put into it. So this urban legend actually did inspire at least one movie that I know of, and that movie is called Underground Lizard People.
Person type thing come out from the old tunnels.
There was a bunch of them feasting on something.
When I got closer to it, it scampered away. It looked like it was like on force, running away.
Hi, I'm Jason Watts, and I'll be your guide as you venture into the dark underbelly of the world you think you know.
Here we are in the belly of the beast. Cell phones don't work down here, so we're gonna have a hard time if we get in trouble.
We've just discovered a series of tunnels that run parallel to each other.
And it was like a cave-in. And I went down, I was looking at the bodies. My uncle was one of them in there. And I'm looking. Didn't look like they were only beat up with rocks. looked like there was some like claw marks on some of these people in there. And I thought I saw somebody or some figure, something dragging something away. I don't know. Some shiny fingers they had. I don't know what it was. I told them exactly what I just told you, but nobody believed me. They didn't believe me. They just thought that the mind caved in on everybody. Yeah, they thought I was crazy. They thought I was a crazy kid. They didn't believe this. That 16-year-old kid ain't going to believe me.
Yeah, so this movie, it came out in 2011, it looks like, and it was directed by Jared Cohn. So this was actually his second movie. So the first movie and then this Underground Lizard People, that was enough to get the attention of the Asylum, which, they make a lot of direct-to-video movies, and usually they're kind of spoofs on some other blockbusters, or they've kind of gained the name mockbusters. So they've done movies like Atlantic Rim, so he has like a Takeoff Pacific Rim, some other movies like that. So he actually did a few movies for them, for the Asylum, called Born Bad, Hold Your Breath, and 12-12-12. And then there was also a sequel, 13-13-13. Oh, and he also directed the Pacific Rim mockbuster, Atlantic Rim. And he's also done some acting too, which he also acted in Underground Lizard People, which he actually did a pretty good job at. Yeah, so in all the actors, like as far as the cast goes, there's nobody really memorable or nobody that I recognize. So as far as like the plot, it's basically just it kind of. At first, I thought this was going to be like a found footage movie, which some of the parts of it is like found footage, but they don't really go into like how they found the footage or anything like that. So basically, what it's about is it's a group of filmmakers. They go into these underground, these tunnels. They're called the Banning Tunnels, and they hear about this story about these old tunnels, and there was a cave in, and all the workers like disappeared, and there's like a cover up that like nobody knows what happened, and so the tunnels are just kind of abandoned. So they want to go find out what's really going on in these tunnels, and so they go to make this little documentary, and they kind of find more than they bargained for. They actually find underground lizard people living in these tunnels. So like I said, like I thought this was going to be like a found footage type movie, and the movie starts out with like interviews. So like one of the taglines for this movie says based on actual eyewitness accounts. And so that made me think, well, is this going to be a documentary style or a mockumentary style? And that's basically what it is. It's kind of a mockumentary. It starts off with they're interviewing different people, quote unquote eyewitness accounts, but I think they're just actors basically. But I did like the documentary style. I like the interview style. But I think one of the things that I didn't like was they start off with the interviews at the beginning, and then after the found footage or the movie part, then they go back into the interviews at the end. And I've kind of forgotten what the people have said at the beginning of the movie. So some of the interviews is like I've kind of missed the context of what they're saying from the beginning. So anyway, so you have that format. So the actual movie part, once they get into like following this group of filmmakers, you've got, the main guy, he's like the director, and then you got his cameraman, and you've got like a girl that does audio, and then you have like their executive producer, which is actually a person from this college branch of like a group that studies paranormal phenomena. So this is like a college group of filmmakers basically, and so they're actually being funded by this organization, this nonprofit that's on campus it's a paranormal research society or something like that. So that's basically your team, and like the director's girlfriend is there for some reason. She doesn't really have any purpose, but she's there along for the ride anyways. So, going into this movie, I wasn't really expecting a whole lot. Looking at the cover art, it's pretty basic, you can tell it's pretty low budget. So I wasn't expecting a whole lot. And I guess like overall my thought was this was actually better than what I thought it was going to be. I got more than what I expected. Now, Dakota, you said you kind of watched part of this. What was your kind of overall feeling for the movie?
I mean, we've always talked about being kind of happy that we have B movies, that way we can appreciate like the major motion pictures.
Oh yeah.
I did like the idea of it man, I didn't get too far into it. I got halfway through it before I finally got distracted and couldn't finish it. But I did appreciate the attempt. The story is great. Just taking this idea of these from this 1934 report in the LA Times and running with it and making their own story. Something I kind of wanted to add to that. All the research I've ever done about these lizard people, it's all over the country, not just in Los Angeles. Los Angeles has this story because of this huge underground tunnel network. But we've heard stories about these lizard men that have inbreeded with humans, and that people are coming forward and saying, my father was a lizard man, and people are like, what? So it's created its own subculture. That started, like I said, it started in 1934, and it's continued on. And all this research that we've seen and that we've read has all stated these facts that people don't understand. And I think that when they took this movie, they kind of took from everything that all the research that we've seen. So I did like that. I did like the idea.
Yeah, I mean, so, like I said, it's a low budget movie, but I do like the setting, where they're filming it in the underground tunnels. It looks, I mean, they actually went to these underground tunnels, which was really cool. And like you, I like the premise. I like the story. I think it's really fascinating. And there was actually one jump scare that actually got me towards the beginning, so I'll give him that. I mean, the special effects, they're okay. They're nothing. They're nothing groundbreaking. They're definitely low budget. It's the makeup on the lizard people, it's pretty minimal. But sometimes you only get like quick glances at them, which is probably for the best. But the lizard people, they're not really scary, and they're kind of easy to kill. Like as the movie goes on, and so that really kind of like takes away the tension or the danger that you feel for the people. And there's one part that I really can't forgive. There's like one lizard person. They have a contact lens, and it's one of those slit ones where the slit should be going up and down, but on this actor it's going sideways, and it just looks goofy. And I don't know why they didn't take like a few minutes to fix the contact, but that's something I can't really get past. And it's the acting is not bad. It's kind of middle of the road. I think for, like I said, for being low budget and probably just getting like their friends to be in this movie, I think it was pretty well acted. The writing was pretty good. I thought the dialogue was good. For what this was, I think they worked well within their budget constraints, and the dialogue wasn't bad. I did like the characters. I think, though I mean there wasn't a whole lot of character depth, but there was like all the characters had their own personality. Like they weren't just like bland characters. The movie overall was pretty good considering the budget they had to work with it. I couldn't actually find a number for the budget, like how much money they spent on it. But like I said, this movie is a lot better than I thought it would be. But there are some things about that I don't like. Like some of the people in this movie crew, they're not dressed appropriately. Like the director's girlfriend has like a strapless dress on, and it's just kind of weird, like out of place. And like another girl was freaked out because there's going to be rats, but it's like you're going underground in these tunnels, and you should have known there's going to be like rats. And so you would have thought that the director guy would have like explained what they were actually doing before they got underground, but it seems like he didn't really. But I did like the director. The director actually played a pretty good character in this movie. He did a really good job with his acting too. But yeah, I don't think this is not a scary movie by any means. But it is a fun B movie. I would say that go into this for a fun time. It is a short movie. It's like 56 minutes, so that's probably good for it. It's not overly long. It's a fun movie, so just sit around with your friends and have a good time with it. So like on something like this, since it is like a lower budget, I would kind of grade it on a curve. Because I'm not going to compare this with like a typical Hollywood movie. But I'll probably give this like for being a low budget movie, I'd probably give this like a 6 out of 10, just slightly above average. And I would say it's definitely worth a watch if you're into like B movies, or if you're at all interested in the underground lizard people phenomenon. Definitely check it out. Like right now, it's streaming on Amazon Video for cheap. It's like $1.99. And so Dakota, do you have anything else you want to add?
Well, I mean, for the time I saw in the movie, I mean, I would give it a 6 out of 10 just because it was an effort, and like I said, it's a low budget, cheesy movie. I did like I do like the story of the lizard people. I do like this huge conspiracy theory, and I mean, there's millions and millions of websites covering just this topic alone. Anybody that wants to like find that stuff, all you got to do is look up lizard people, and you'll find it. I mean, these stories that they take and make into movies, they just bring to light what we already know.
So that'll do it for this first episode of our virtual road trip here in California, and we want to thank you guys for tuning in and listening, and hope that you'll keep tuning into each episode and finding out some other creepy urban legends for each state around the country. And like I said, the next episode we're going to be in Nevada, so we're going to find out what's going on there. And as always, you can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page where I post articles, different things, and I'm on Twitter where I also post articles and just different things that I find interesting. On Twitter we are at Black Hat Podcast, and we're also on Horror Amino. I haven't done a whole lot on there yet. I've just been posting, doing like posts about the podcast, but it's basically just like an app on your phone. So it's, I think it's been a little bit harder for me to want to do a lot of typing on the phone. And also, if you want to give us, shoot us a message, say hi, give us a show idea, or if you want to join us on one of these episodes and like for your state that you live in, feel free to give us an email and let us know, because we'd love to have our listeners join us on an episode. You can share some of the urban legends that you know from your state. And shoot us an email. Our email is blackcatpodcast@gmail.com. Our website is www.blackcatshadow.com. There you can find all of our links to all of our episodes, links to iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and also a link to our eBay movie store. Dakota, let people know how they can get a hold of you if they would like to.
Yeah, my social media game is pretty lacking too, so if you guys want to reach out to me, best way to do it, just email me at daxshadowbane@gmail.com. You can find, just email me, let me know about the state you live in, tell me some horror stories, and we can try to squeeze it in there. And if you, like Andy said, if you do want to be on the podcast, if we're going to your state, just let us know, and we'll see what we can do, and you can tell us some of your scary stories. I don't know. Do you want to post our route online on Horror Amino on the Facebook page, so that if people see their state coming up, they can email us a little earlier?
That's a good idea. I'll put our route up on social media. All right. So remember, guys, to take a closer look at the world around you, and you may just find that it is stranger and more mysterious than you thought, especially in the Black Cat Shadow.